Now in our login service.cs file, which is under the data folder, we have added this package, so then later we can use the SQLite commands. And we added this inheritance. So basically what this means is whatever we have in the SQLite service .cs file, we're gonna be able, all the functions in there, we're going to be able to use that from inside of login service.cs file. And SQLite service, which is right here, we created it already. And then we added this constructor, and we set the login status to be 0 by default, which means that we're going to always assume that the user is not logged in. And we created this user data, which is an instance from the member data class, which it was this one. And basically it has name and password, and each have set and get functions. And here it is again, member data. And then down here we created this get logged in user info, which is gonna later return the user data instant that we just created. And let's go down here. All of these parts we don't need anymore, but I want you guys to see the difference, so I just commented it out instead of deleting it. And right here, this is what's new. So we created this login verify function, where basically essentially what we do is we just check if the user input into the account and password boxes what we already have in our database with these guys. So if they input the valid account, then we let them log in. If not, then no. So same thing as last week, just read from the database, and when they read, they look for the password and the username. And if the username and the passwords are the same as what the user input, then we change the login status to 1, and we grab those username and password, which we're going to use for later, and we return true. And if the username and password the user put in is not correct, then we returns false. And here is actually where we're going to use this login verify. It is actually in this login.razor file, which is under pages, login.razor. And in here, we have modify our login function, where we use this login verify function, and we check if the username and the passwords they input are valid, which means true in this case. Then we gonna get the login status, and we are going to get the username and the passwords that which is this function where we created in here. It's just gonna return us the username and the password. If the information they put in is not valid, then we just simply give them this message: your username or password is incorrect. And now this part is debatable. Some prefer to, once the user log in, they will be redirected to the home page. Some don't. So for the ones that like to have the option to redirect the user to the home page, you guys can just uncomment this line and do that. However, in our code right now, so say once the user account input is correct, then we change the login status, right? We get the login status, which we already changed to 1 down here. And so if we scroll back in our login.razor file and to our if statement, if the status is 1, meaning if the user is logged in, then we just say welcome them. And we deleted this one because we don't want to show the password. And same thing as last week, if they are not logged in, then they're gonna see the options to log in. And as you can see, we have changed the type instead of text to password, so then whatever the user type into the password box is not going to show in plain text, for example, like this. Okay. And then what else did we change? We have, let's see, in our signup.razor file, we have changed to, if the user click cancel button, instead of being redirected to the home page, we redirect them to the login page, which can depend on your personal preference as well. I just personally think that being redirected back to the login makes more sense, so that's what we change here. And then one last thing we change is this navmenu.razor file, which is under the share folder, navmenu.razor. We added these guys, which you're gonna use them later down here. And we also added the lockout to show on the menu, which is right here. And if you scroll down, we have moved this lockout function to here, where basically if the user click lockout, then we set the login status back to 0, and it will redirect them to the login page. And this is the reason why we needed to inject these guys, so we can use navigation manager. And pretty much that's all we did for this week.